to Babylon, to the surviving elders among the exiles, to the priests and the prophets, and all other people Nebuchadnezzar had deported. Jeremiah entrusted the letter to Elisha, whom Zedekiah, ruler of Judah, sent to Nebuchadnezzar, ruler of Babylon. The letter read, "Thus says the Omnipotent, the God of Israel, to all the exiles I deported from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build houses to live in. Plant gardens and eat what they grow. Marry and raise daughters and sons. Find wives and husbands for your children, that they may have daughters and sons. Multiply while you are there. Do not decrease. Rather, seek the peace and the prosperity of the city to which I exiled you. Pray for the Holy One, for if it prospers, you will prosper."
Over the past 3 or so weeks, I've asked the question of colleagues and some of you, what does one preach after an election? But now I'm wondering, what does one preach when the music soars, the choir sings a beautiful anthem, and Elizabeth preaches part of your sermon? But nevertheless, I'll try. This sermon is not so much about an election, it's about us. It's about us, whichever way we voted, whatever our political leanings are. It's about us and the world and our nation being together in one community. Yet I imagine that for some of us here, that things didn't go our way on Tuesday. I imagine that some of us might even have a heavy heart right now. In her book, Awakening at the Middle, Kathleen Berhone aptly describes the space that some of us may find ourselves in at this moment. And she writes in the book, quote, "The sense of fear and loss that accompanies the letting go of dreams that will never be is best described by the German word Torschlusspanik, defined as panic at the thought that a door between oneself and life's opportunity has shut." End quote. Torschlusspanik. It doesn't have an English equivalent. So it's a word that works well today. Perhaps it should have been the sermon title. But the thing is, if we really pay attention to the reading from Jeremiah, it's a call that no matter where you are, whether you're feeling exiled or a refugee in your own land, or whether you feel you are in the right place, is that it is a message of settling in. And when I say settling in, I don't mean hunkering down and covering up your head, locking your front door and windows and back door, and sealing every crack. It is about settling into where you are, settling into your community, your city, your state, your nation, and the world. Settling in. Go ahead and plant those gardens. Go ahead and build new homes. Go ahead and be a part of it. When we do this, we are becoming part of a one. And this is what I believe our nation really needs right now. Yes, there will continue to be shouting over one another. There will be continued, but if we work and pray that we can be one in community, it might happen. A colleague of mine who lives out in the middle of the country, he and his partner live right across the street of Republicans. They don't see eye to eye, not even on sexuality, but somehow they have begun to celebrate birthdays together. They have come over and helped one of them build a hot tub. They somehow are beginning not just tolerate one another, but like one another. Now, that is hard work sometimes. But the thing is, my friends, if we are up to it, we can do this. But the thing is that sometimes what we have imagined our past to be cannot be our future. Sometimes what we believe are our dreams, we have to let go of and plant those seeds and put down those roots in community, that something new may rise up and perhaps even entangle us together. Now, Mountain Rise does some of this. You are an active social justice congregation. You show up at rallies. You give to good causes. You are on the precipice of being that community in the world. If not for your presence, perhaps things may not be so well for others. Perhaps it is that intersecting with one another that we become a blessing to each other. For you see, the narrative that we tell ourselves is not what we believe. For some, we draw back on American history and say, this is what we want to go back to. And then that's my response sometimes is, really? We really want to go back to all that? But sometimes, even when we say that, it's also perhaps naming, which we rarely use this word, naming some of our sins of the past, of what we thought might be. But by settling in, by being a people of faith, living in community, working in the world, the seeds we plant may be actually those that can change the world. And granted, I must say that the passage that we have heard today is God reminding the Israelites about their exile, that they just can't go back to Jerusalem and do things the same, that they must settle in. And this means settling into where they are. This is a community that is asked to be a part of a land they do not want to be at. This is a community that is called to live with those who are different, perhaps to experience some of what they even created in Jerusalem now in their presence. But God calls them to be there, but not to assimilate, but to be a community that makes a difference. So, my friends, we are called to settle in, not just in our homes, but to settle in and make a difference and plant the garden of hope even when there is despair. Will you pray with me? God of new life, even when we find ourselves in situations unimaginable, you give us reason to hope. In the midst of destruction, you enliven our capacities for building community and connection. In the midst of Torschlusspanik, the gifts of your Spirit remain with us. By your grace, make us creators of justice and planters of peace in whatever community we find ourselves in.